Well, I think one of the biggest things that's new now is the attention that this topic is getting at senior levels of the organizations. It's a topic that's being talked about by boards, it's a topic that's being talked about by regulators, it's a topic that's being talked about by senior executives. Previously, this was often a discussion at the control activity level. Now it's been raised to a much more strategic discussion. We believe that really to drive value out of risk management capability, the real nugget that's available to organizations is to link that in a meaningful way to the way that they manage performance. A lot of the risk management discussions focus on how you look at key risk indicators. It focuses on how do you evaluate the oncoming threats or identify those opportunities that start to emerge. To really take advantage of those types of things means linking those decisions to the business objectives that are driven by the organization. And that is already, typically, in many organizations, identified and measured by their performance metrics. We think linking the risk indications and the performance metrics and integrating that activity creates an opportunity for organizations to unlock value that they haven't been able to unlock previously. Well, the biggest thing that we suggest to organizations is to really look at risk management from the perspective of identification of business objectives. One of the places that this has gone awry in the past is that organizations look at this as a theoretical exercise. To make it practical, it's really got to connect to the way that the organization understands its strategy, the way it develops that strategy, the way it measures that strategy. And that, by the way, is the same activity that the senior executive team is entirely focused on. Make it relevant, make it meaningful, make it impactful. It's got to start with those business objectives. Well, risk management is not necessarily new. We've had a history around risk management that goes back many years. Even as recently as 2004, when COSO outlined the enterprise risk management principles, really risk management at that moment wasn't a new topic. It was really talking about how you define and execute on the concepts. But one of the things that happened is that organizations missed that linkage between performance and business objectives and risks. They allowed it to become a theoretical exercise. Organizations pulled way down into the details on control activity levels and transaction controls and segregation of duties, all really driven by an intelligent and appropriate focus on financial control, but they missed some of the strategic and more business objective capabilities that risk management can bring to bear. The net result, a lot of organizations' early efforts were bureaucratic. They were focused on form over function. They relied a lot on spreadsheets and manual activity, and they created a burden on the organization instead of enabling better decision making, which is where we think real capability lies in driving what we characterize as risk resilience. Today, most organizations have segregated those activities. You have risk management professionals that may report up to the CFO or the treasurer, and you have performance people that are monitoring the business reporting up to the operational leadership. And we think that's one of the opportunities for linkage. This isn't about integrating so that you have a single point of contact or a single individual. It's not about organizational models per se, but it is about making sure that those different disparate functions relate to each other. They use the same language. They understand the same measurements, they report to the same executives, and they monitor this in the same consistent fashion. That's where we think opportunity lies for organizations to better integrate those existing functions. I think some of the reason that this often gets looked at in the lens of compliance is because of where it has come from organizationally. A lot of organizations looked at this in the context of Sarbanes-Oxley. It was a natural outgrowth to the COSO model that they implemented. But part of the problem with that is it limits the value of the exercise. It limits it to looking at financial statement disclosure, which is extremely important, not suggesting for a second that that doesn't require focus. But the real value that enterprise risk and risk management as a capability and driving toward organizational resilience, the real value there is in clarity of decision making. It's in confidence around decision making. Organizations that see a clearer path can take risks that perhaps other organizations can't. And of course, organizations that have clarity around that can make sure they avoid the risks that perhaps other organizations won't.